All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome. Let me go. Here we go. All right. That's your warning. If you guys don't realize it by now, we are live on YouTube and it will be archived. So you're being recorded. If you don't want your image or your voice, either or, to be transmitted, just let us know, or just literally, you don't even have to let us know. Just turn off your camera and your mic and participate through the chat room. And you guys help me keep an eye on the chat room. I'm going to put it
I
up over
will.
here right now. I know that my co-host there is going to keep an eye on it as well. Joseph, who both Joseph and I both have been under the weather, and we haven't seen each other in weeks, so I know it's not a common bug. Uh,
Yeah.
but we've neither one have felt good this week, so this show has been put together on a wing and a prayer. It's brought to you by the letter We Didn't Know What to Do. So anyway, all right, there we go. I got the chat room up. All right, hello everybody, and welcome. This is I almost said the wrong name of the show. This is the Southwest Florida Tech Net, and we are supported by the Southwest Florida Tech team. And I would like to welcome everybody tonight to the Tech Net. Tonight, we're going to be taking a deep dive into the frequency spectrum. And, I think a lot of people, even hams, a lot of times, been a ham for a while and may not realize just how much is on the spectrum. It is incredible, the different amount of things on the spectrum. And a lot of people would think, well, nobody's using HF anymore except us. We're the only ones left there. That's not true. There's still a lot of things going on down on HF besides just amateur radio. And so we're going to take a look at all this. We're going to go through an expanded band plan tonight. And I'm also going to tell you guys, if you want to get the band plan that I'm going to discuss tonight, it's like a PDF that you can zoom way in on and really analyze the bands. It's really, really cool. You can get the link for that by going to the website and clicking the live tab. And it's like the third tab over. And you click the live tab and it will bring up a Word document, and the link's right there. You can click it or copy it or whatever you have to do to get it out of there. By the way, that tab and that screen there is for you to use. It's here every week for you to post things. If you've got a link you want to give to everybody, tell us about the link, post it in there, and then we can all go in and get it. That's what that page is for. So we're kind of reintroducing that page tonight because we haven't been using it that much. And so I wanted to just let everybody know what that page is for. So if you get a chance now or later, check out the live tab on the website, and you'll find there's actually a living document there that you can add things to and also copy from. And if you accidentally screw something up on there, you need to hit undo because we can't fix it for you. So just keep an eye on that. All right, everything's good there. All right, let's see here. Let me get the screen capture going here. Oh, all right, there we go. Oh, there we go. Let's do that one. The computer's a little weird tonight. I restarted it and it's still acting a little weird tonight. But anyway, so tonight we're going to do the frequency spectrum. We're going to take a little bit of a deep dive. And I'd like to welcome Joseph, KM4OVZ, my co-host, who is basically neither one of us are well tonight. So he's kind of just making sure that I don't go off the side of the runway. All right, let's see. Radio frequency allocation deep dive is where we're going to start. And then we're going to get into some ham radio news as always. And then we're going to do topics brought by you at the end. So if you have something you need help on, you are welcome to bring it to this net. You don't have to wait for an open lines night. If it's a big topic, get with me ahead of time. We'll do the topic. And you don't have to be the one to tell us about it. I'll find somebody. But if you have something you want to bring it. If you don't have, if you have a small topic or something you just like a quick help on, at the end, there'll be an opportunity. And what's great about that is there's a lot of people in here that don't have their cameras on. We've got a number of folks in here that don't have their cameras on. I think there's 16, 17 people in here now. There'll be 30, 40 people in here later. You should take that opportunity right after the main topic to ask questions of people like Ham and John and people that have been doing this a lot longer than we have, and they'll help you get that stuff on the air. So we're going to be doing that later on as we get towards the end. I usually do it several times, usually before and after the news. All right, spread the word about the TechNet. Um, I need you guys to help me get the word out. We're just not propagating, if you don't mind me using that term. We're just not propagating well. I'm not getting the YouTube hits I thought I would get. I'm not getting the subscribes. Uh, I'm not getting the movement that I'm looking for online. And I figured with the time and effort that Joseph and I and several others have put into this net, and the time we've been running now, which by the way, this net's been on the air for coming up on 9 months. Uh, Actually, I think we're over 9 months now. I think we're in our coming up on our 10th month. Um, I thought that by now our audience would be more in the hundreds, and I actually thought we'd have more of a YouTube audience. So I'm a little surprised by that. I'm not necessarily disappointed. I did a paranormal research show for 4 years, did 206 episodes where we did remote broadcasts from all kinds of haunted locations around Florida, and it was an amazing thing. And we never could quite get the traction on the internet that we wanted. But that was 10 years ago. The internet's come a long way in 10 years, and this format doesn't require quite as much quite as much bandwidth and things like that to participate as that multi-screen format show did that I was putting on back then. So hopefully, uh, now that COVID, I know everybody thinks that COVID is like the worst thing in the world, but I'm going to tell you guys something. Always look for the silver lining. There's a lot of silver linings in COVID. I know that sounds crazy. One of the things we learned in COVID is we can work at home and be just as productive. Some other things we learned in COVID is that we can have meetings on Zoom and actually learn just as much, and even more in some respects because of distraction and ADD and things like that, and proper environment and things. So we've actually come a distance with COVID. And I think one of the other things is we've learned with COVID that we don't have to meet in person to get things done, and that we are able to do amazing things by just working with each other through electronics. And we've also made people more comfortable with the online experience, the online environment, and online television. And these things are all very important to the future. Um, my wife and I watched a lot of TV. My wife watches a lot of TV. I watch some TV. Uh, we used to watch, I don't know, so many hours, and now we realize my wife watches about 90% YouTube. She watches private broadcasters like me that are here doing a free show, or in some of their cases a lightly monetized show, to in our case here a nonprofit show that's not monetized. um, and that's the kind of shows that my wife and I watch on YouTube, and we're actually finding them to be more entertaining. Everything from people that go and see the graves of all of the famous people that have died. We're following some other guys that do wildlife, and they raise big cats that have been injured in the wild, and giraffes having babies. My God, my wife watches all kinds of YouTube videos. You wouldn't believe some of the different things, but they're interesting. They're cool. They're live. They're happening. And so YouTube is such a great medium out there. And so I want you guys to just help me get this word out, and let everybody know. Next time you're on a net, let them know that we're here, that we're putting time and effort into this. Come check us out. It may be something that helps you get on the air or helps you get something fixed. So just do me a favor, and whether it's social media, sharing the links to the show on Facebook or Twitter, for any of us that have that crap anymore. And I, trust me, I get it. I'm not doing a lot of it myself. I really need to be more engaging in social media. I just hate it. I think it's just terrible, but it's necessary. On radio nets, during comment sections, remind people about our net here. Word of mouth, swap meets, meeting, socials. Word of mouth's the best way to get the word out. Like, share, subscribe, and ring the notification bell on YouTube. If you're signed into YouTube, when you click all those things, each one of those helps our algorithm. It brings up brings us up on search results. And when that happens, we get more viewers and we get more support, and we get more people signing up for the newsletter and for the team and to support the net. And so it's important to do all that. So, okay, I'm off the soapbox. But do that. Help us spread the word about the TechNet. All right, tonight we're going to talk about the frequency spectrum. You know, again, I was very surprised myself when I started deep diving this. Even in the last few days when I was preparing for this, I was kind of surprised at some of the things I found. There's just so many different things that are being used through the communication spectrum. So tonight we're going to go through the frequency spectrum and explore all the different uses and modes. We're going to venture far outside the ham radio allocations, and we're going to look at the entire spectrum. I just wanted to give you guys a quick refresher. I suck at math. I'm going to be honest with you right up front. Zeros and ones, oh my goodness. I'm not good at math, but for the purposes tonight, we need to know a little bit about how we move decimal points and things like that. So I just want to do a little refresher course for everybody out there. Frequency basics, okay? I used to get very confused. Like I would get SDR sharp and I would want to put in a frequency, and then I would go to my SDR or web SDR and I'd put in a frequency and it wouldn't work. And it'd make me so mad. It's because you got to use commas and periods based on whether they say they want it in megahertz, kilohertz, or hertz. Believe it or not, some of the servers out there want it in hertz. So if you want to listen to 154 megahertz, that's 154,000,000 enter. I know it's crazy. That's why I'm mentioning it, because you may run into this one day, if you haven't already, where it won't accept your frequency. And you just want to do what I used to do and take the keyboard and break it over the counter. And I know, because I used to do that kind of stuff. But I'm telling you, all it is you've got, it either wants commas, it doesn't want commas, it wants periods, it doesn't want periods, the period or the comma's in the wrong place. It's one of those things. So check your formatting. Okay, it's real simple. 1 hertz, okay, is 1 wave per second. So every time we go up from that, 150 megahertz, okay, is 150 million cycles per second. 100 kilohertz is 100,000 cycles per second, and 100 hertz would be 100 cycles per second. It's just important to understand how this works, because you're going to run into this a lot in amateur radio. And the more you get into it, the more you're going to find programs want megahertz or kilohertz or hertz. Has anyone run into that, or does anyone want to comment on this? Or have I not explained it well?
I ran into that same problem when I first started messing with web SDR. I tried typing that thing in 500 times, and I was like, why?
Isn't it aggravating? And you're like, it's there. And what's really aggravating, I ran into one that once you type it the way they want it, it converts it back to what I was typing to begin with. That would really made me mad.
Oh, man.
So
drive you crazy.
That's why I just wanted to make sure you guys know this, because it sucks. Okay. This is really cool. The energy spectrum is split up into 2 parts, okay? Part of it is the radio spectrum, and part of it is the optical spectrum. Now, I thought it was interesting, and I'm not going to get into this tonight, but you can communicate optically, and I'm not talking about through glass. There's actually ways amateur radio operators can communicate with each other using a laser that is sending pulse rate, and they can communicate over miles and miles and miles using visual communication. So you're not limited to the radio spectrum, although that's where most of us reside. Now, when it comes to this, I want you guys to understand how this works. Way over here on the left, you've got 10 hertz. Okay, so that's 10 cycles basically per second. When you're down there, that's very low frequency. Really not used by much of anything down there. It's too low to be used for radio. Once we get up into this area here, 1 kilohertz, we start to get to the point where radio communications are actually possible on that frequency. And so now we're in the radio range. We go through the low frequency, medium frequency, and high frequency. This is where we do a lot here. HF is where we spend a lot of time obviously with your HF radio. And then that gets up to 10 megahertz. Now, once we get up to 50 megahertz, we get into the VHF range. And then UHF, you've got your super high and your extremely high, I believe, frequency. And then all of a sudden, the frequency is so excited, it's so fast that it becomes light, it becomes visible. Or not necessarily visible at first, but it becomes a wavelength of light. And now we get into infrared, which is what my security cameras see at night. Infrared light, the reason it's used for security cameras is because that lower frequency actually proliferates better at night, and it seems to light up with a lot less energy, more of an area. We get up to 10 terahertz up here, and we get into the visible light spectrum. And of course, that you get your rainbow there from red, which is the low end of the spectrum, all the way up to ultraviolet, which is the highest end of the spectrum. People sometimes forget that. They think that black lights and blue lights must be on the low end of the spectrum. Those are actually on the high end of the spectrum. Infrared and heat and that kind of energy is down towards the low end of the optical spectrum. And then you get into your ultraviolet light, your X-rays, your gamma rays. As this goes up, it becomes more damaging to human flesh. And then, of course, we get up here to cosmic rays that are actually 10 to the 23rd power megahertz, or 10 to the 23rd power hertz, I should say. You got to be specific with this stuff. Okay. Does anyone have any questions about the energy spectrum real quick as a quick refresher? I'm not a science professor, but I love this stuff. It's so interesting. And so
Yeah.
I hope does my passion make up for the fact that I hope I know what I'm doing?
Oh yes, absolutely.
Okay. What were you going to say, Joseph?
I was going to say, when I first tried to explain to my mom that radio was also the same as visible light, that blew her mind. That was really cool.
Did you get what you talking about, Willis?
She was like, no. I was like, yes.
Yeah. Light and sound, that's ears and eyes. It's two different things. What are you talking about? But yeah, it's interesting how that works. It's
interesting to think too, like if your eyes could see in the radio spectrum and you keyed up a handheld, it would just look like the antenna was a light bulb. It would just glow.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting to think about.
I wish that you could see it a little bit like in Star Trek or something. That would be cool.
Glow.
If I could, when I transmit, if my antenna put out like a red glow and then like little beams came out, that would look so cool to my neighbors. It would remind them all the time why their TV's messed up. All right. So to go through things is a real basic. Okay. Now this is for the new folks. Okay. So don't shoot me, John and Rick and Ham, but this is in Henry. This is for the new folks out there that haven't done this before. This is just a basic overview of where you find stuff. That very low frequency we talked about, mostly just marine stuff. Mostly it's surface wave, and it's used over ocean. When you get down that low, it's about all it's good for. And then you get into maritime radio navigation for your low frequency, your MF, your medium frequencies there is going to be your AM radio, your aviation radio navigation. You get up into HF, your shortwave, VHF television, FM radio. And then, of course, you can see you work your way up. And then finally, your really high stuff down below 1 centimeter wavelength is mostly radio astronomy, satellites, and communications and stuff like that. So just the basics there. Now, real quick, just to show you guys, there's a lot of different ways that waves move through. And we've done this on a different night, so I only got one slide on it, but I just want to cover it real quick. Ground wave stuff, VLF, very low frequency and low frequency stuff, which, by the way, we're talking stuff that's way down like where Marconi made his first transatlantic. You can see that there, the two arrows. Submarines use this. It's a ground wave. It works by skimming across the top of the water. Once we get up to MF, medium wave, and your high wave, your high frequency, Once you get up into those, you're mostly into a skywave situation where we're needing to reflect off of sporadic E, or reflect off of the F layer in the atmosphere, or reflect off of something. It has to have help from the sky. And then, of course, when we get up higher than that, it's going to basically mostly everything's line of sight. But as we get up towards VHF and UHF, of course, line of sight is going to be your main thing. And of course, up in those bands, you can get things like troposcatter and aurora scatter, and some different kinds of tropospheric ducting, and there's a bunch of different kinds of tropospheric changes that happen in the VHF and UHF range too. So some interesting stuff there, but I just wanted to put that out there just to kind of show you where the AM bands are, where the FM band is. These are all across the whole spectrum. All right, now, real quick, just to give you a quick overview, you've got your low band. Then notice where our 6 meter, that we're going to start here with, what is that, 30 megahertz. Okay, this is basically looking, right here we get to the VHF band. There's our 6 meter. Everything that's pink on these next two slides is amateur radio. So there's our 50 meter band. Notice here we got TV. These are the old TV channels, old analog, huge, wide broadcast channels. And then your FM broadcast channels here, 88 megahertz through 108 megahertz, as you guys know from the dashboard of your truck. And then, of course, you've got your aircraft band. Aircraft is generally always an AM or amplitude modulation, so you got to remember that. If you're trying to scan aircraft stuff, you're going to need to scan it and listen for it in AM, an amplitude modulation. There's your military stuff. And then right above that, here we go, military 2 meter band, 144 to 148 megahertz. That's our probably our most used band right there because of the repeaters that we have. Some real nice repeaters in this area. And then you got military, VHF high band. And then what they mean by VHF high band, this is government, mostly government. And we're going to get into that a little more in depth. But your fire departments are on 154, 155 megahertz. And then your forestry is up on 164. So
Marine bands too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Marine bands in there as well. And then you got your TV channels going up here, and then we get up a little higher. Here's our 20 band. Buck and a quarter. I got to tell you, I love the name. Whoever came up with it, kudos. Yeah. I love the name for the Buck and a Quarter net on Wednesday nights. If you guys want to check out the Buck and a Quarter net, it costs about $1.25. It's not that expensive.
It costs about $27.
Yeah, $27.25 to join the net via Baofeng. You can see here we got military, and then we run through here different stuff. TV channels. It's amazing how much stuff is up here, all the way up to 900. Now, once we get to here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch screens here, and we're going to go to this. This is a really cool thing that I want to show you guys. The link for this is under the live tab. You can get your own copy of this. It's a PDF. You can download it, save it. Probably a good idea to have on your thumb drive that you take in emergencies, that has all your you guys know it's always a really good idea to have all the owner's manuals, all the frequency lists, all the ARRL manuals, all that stuff printed out or on a thumb drive or both. So, and this would be something I would definitely want on that thumb drive, so that when you get somewhere after disaster, internet's down, you still have the detailed information you need here to see what's on each band. Now, I want to show you guys basically how this works. You go in here, look at this. This is an amazing graphic here. And you can see here when we're down, we're right down here. Let's see here. Where are we at? What's the... See, we don't get to 1 megahertz until we get down to here. I mean, we're literally, this is kilohertz. This is 14 kilohertz, 19 kilohertz. And you can see where the military, or the maritime, the boats, they use these lower frequencies, radio navigation, maritime. there's not much for us to hear down there, and there's not a lot of radios that hear that low anyway. Man, this thing is so huge. Then we get down to the other side of this here. This is and you guys break in anytime if you know anything about this stuff and you want to break in. But again, radio navigation, maritime, mobile, and aeronautical navigation. There's a lot of different things that you use, but that's all way down below 1 megahertz. We're down in the kilohertz range. All right. And then we start back over here again. This is 300 kilohertz. Again, maritime, mobile. There's not just and then here we go. Here's our radio broadcast band for amplitude modulation. And that's all between 53 and whatever. Does that make sense? 535 kilohertz to 1600 kilohertz. Yeah, that's correct. That's like your that's your broadcast your broadcast amplitude modulation band. That's your old AM radio. And you can today with your SDR Sharp, you can tune into that band right there, switch it to AM, and you can still hear AM radio stations. They're still out there. And just like anything else, if you do it like late at night, you'll hear stations that are really far away. Our AM stations that we have are still required to turn down to just a fraction of the power at night. And I'm sure that's something John and some of the guys that have been in broadcast radio have dealt with. We run our blowtorch out there at 1200 AM. I guess it's still going out there. We have a Latino channel on it. And it's boiling out 100,000 watts or some crap on AM. But at night, we have to turn it down to 10,000 watts. Okay, and then once we get down past AM, we get into this band. What is that? Amateur radio there. It's the wrong color.
It's 160 meters.
Oh.
Yep. Yeah, there we go. So that's 160 meters. That's 1.8 megahertz to 1.9 megahertz. Remember how I told you guys the little refresher earlier, and I've already screwed it up twice. So anyway, but yeah, that's 1.8 megahertz and to 1.9 megahertz, or that would also can be said 1800 kilohertz to 1900 kilohertz. So either way, but that is our amateur band right there for 160 meters. And then you go on up here. This is all mobile, maritime mobile, pretty much all the basic stuff there. Then we get down here. These are all fixed stations, land mobile stations. A lot of this is commercial. I don't know what they use a lot of this stuff for, but then we get into broadcast television. Land mobile is just two-way radio systems. And then
at
broadcast
49 megahertz. Oh yeah, like wait, is it? Hold on, this is 46 megahertz, right? 46.6 megahertz.
Yeah, that would be 40. Yeah, 47.
Yeah, that's that area right there. Is that kilohertz?
No, it's
megahertz.
It's megahertz. Okay,
That's megahertz.
That 49 megahertz and kilohertz there. That is what a lot of radio control toys use, as well as really cheap toy walkie-talkies will use 49 megahertz. Same for 27 megahertz. There's a lot of stuff down there. There's a certain section. So that like fixed mobile thing right there, that's used by toys an awful lot.
You know, back in the day, back in when I was a kid, like I'm talking in the like right around 1980-ish, I used to buy these FM headphones, and they were hooked to a box, and you could buy as many of them as you wanted. They were about 40 or 50 bucks a piece. It was expensive, but they worked about a mile away. They were the best two-way radios I ever had when I was a kid, and they worked on 49.9 megahertz. I can still remember that frequency. So that puts it in this little sliver right here. That's interesting, though. It's interesting that on here it doesn't show that as for that, but whatever. They also used to sell a lot of toys, and there was another band here in the 39, right around there. And you know, something else that's interesting is I'll tell you another quick story. There was when I was a firefighter, a couple of guys moved down here named Casey and Larry. They moved down from Loveland, Ohio, and the Loveland Township, Ohio Fire Department had a radio system on 39 megahertz. And back then, they were starting to switch over to VHF, but they were still simulcasting all their alerts on 39 megahertz because and all their traffic, because the guys still had all their plectrons, their alert systems, if you will, on 39.9 megahertz, 39.8 or 39.9. It was one or the other. And they brought that plectron down because one of them had bought their own, and it was a tube plectron. It was probably, pretty good size. And they brought that thing down, and they put that plectron in the day room, sitting on the dining room table because it was up against the wall unless we pulled it out. And we took a wire and we went out and we wrapped it around the tower that went up 50 feet out behind the station. We turned it on and it sat there. It sat there for about 4 days. And it went off at one morning at 7:30 in the morning. It went off. Loveland, engine 22, engine 24, truck 9, structure fire. And I'm like, oh my God, we're getting a call for Loveland Township Fire Department here in our day room in Fort Myers, Florida. I thought that was really cool. And of course, it was early morning, 39 megahertz. And it just happened to be rolling this way. And we left that in there for over a year. And about once or twice a week, we would get toned out for the Loveland Fire Department. And we used to think that was just the coolest thing in the world. So there's my story for the night on that. All right. Anybody have anything up to now?
A similar story when I was a kid, and even young adult, I did a lot of scanner programming for people, and the Indiana State Police were on 42.42 and 42.26.
Mm-hmm.
And when things would get running, you could hear a police car sometimes up from the other side of the state on those frequenting was right.
Yeah. One more quickie. I had a friend that was a trooper, and he introduced me to the old dispatcher that had worked here in Fort Myers for 40 years before he retired. Really neat guy. And being that I have some dispatch experience in my past too, I wanted to meet the guy. And so I met him. He told me this story about this back when they were on low band. They called it low band. I don't know what frequency. I don't know, 30, 40 megahertz, whatever.
Technically, it's VHF low.
Yeah. Something like that. And they had the big whip antennas, 45-incher whip antennas on the back, and they were hooked into the side of the trunk. Anyway, this trooper backed in behind this road sign to run radar one night. He thought it'd be a cool spot, so he backed in. He's sitting there, and he's listening to the Fort Myers dispatcher. Problem is, this guy was up on the interstate north of what's it up there? Left to Tallahassee, way out there. That I don't know. It's one of the towns almost to the Alabama line. And he's sitting up there. Yeah, something like that. He's sitting up there on I-10, and he backs in, and he hears the Fort Myers dispatcher. So he picks up the radio. He says, 1239 Fort Myers. And she says, 1239. She comes back, 1239, you're not one of my guys. Where are you at? And he says, you won't believe it, but I'm up in wherever, up in the Panhandle, and I can hear you. And so they have a conversation that none of the other troopers in Fort Myers can hear half of, and none of the other troopers up in the Panhandle can hear the other half of. And they sit there and have a conversation. Well, this becomes a thing. I don't know if it's because of a broadcast tower nearby or something, or just the swirl of the energy. But every time he would back in behind that sign, he could pick it up, and he could not call Tallahassee, but he could key it up and he could talk to Fort Myers. And he would always,
the sign was probably reflecting the.
Yeah, there was some dynamic there. If he parked just right, he'd pick it up and he'd go 1239 Fort Myers, and she'd go, hey, how you doing up there tonight? And they would have this conversation, and it got to the point where the troopers were used to the dispatcher talking to this mysterious trooper up in the Panhandle a couple times a week at 3 o'clock in the morning. So
Yeah,
I don't know.
VH low will do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
It will
it was
skip
like
like
it
that.
was a constant path that was there every day. So it wasn't atmospherics. I don't know. I always thought that was such a neat story. All right. Anybody have any more questions on the expanded plan here? I want to show you guys basically just what it is and how it works. I'm not going to go through the entire thing, but I do want to just show you real quick where. Why is this not working? I want to show you real quick where the amateur radio stuff is. You get right here into. Oh crap! Whatever. Guys, I got to tell you, this is so in depth that it makes it really hard to use. But you can see where the amateur bands are etched out here. That's actually up in the microwave, but whatever. All right. So anyway, this is a great tool that I suggest each of you check out on your own, and we'll just leave it at that. Does anybody have any questions about the frequency allocation chart?
What's the copyright date on that at the bottom left?
16, I believe.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. If there's a newer one, post a link up on that page for me. But that's the one I got right there.
No, I think that's the latest one.
Is it? Okay, cool. All right, so we're going to switch back over to here. I want to show you guys, there is some really cool stuff that you can pick up with your SDR Sharp, your scanner, whatever. We're going to talk about that in a minute too. Here is some things that you can pick up with your scanner right now, tonight, and or maybe tomorrow. But there's some real cool stuff. Both Pagefield and Southwest Regional have frequencies here that are listed. I didn't list every single one, like Pagefield has 5 more, but they're such a slow airport. That's the only one you're probably going to hear anything on. The Southwest Regional is a lot busier, so you might hear traffic on a bunch of those. Remember, if you want to listen on these channels, you cannot listen with an FM radio. Like your Baofeng, believe it or not, some of the Baofengs will tune to these frequencies. Sounds great, right? It won't work. You won't hear nothing because they're FM and this is AM. So it will work if you've got a shack in the box or a radio that will tune to these bands and these frequencies that does AM. It will work. A lot of rigs, a lot of HF rigs, you can dial up these frequencies, put it in AM, and listen to aircraft on your HF rig. Your SDR Sharp will do it.
FM rigs will do it too.
Oh, they'll receive an AM?
Yes, they'll receive an AM.
That's cool.
Yeah. Some of the ICOMs can be tuned into the AM band. Of course, it'll go into AM mode. So you can listen to aircraft on it. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Joseph.
The FT 8900 is another radio that can do AM, and I do listen to the Fort Myers approach and departure a lot using the AM side because it will tune down to that.
There you go. So that's something you can listen to right there. And if you miss these frequencies, all you need to do, radio reference or Broadcastify both. You can just go to Google and type Lee County, Florida radio frequencies, and then pull up either Broadcastify or just one of the websites you've heard before, and you'll get the entire list. They're all right there. You can also go back to YouTube and just go back in this show until you see this screen. All right, here's some other ones you can do. And every county has this. If you're in Charlotte County, your county has this same stuff. This just shows you some stuff you can do. Fire Rescue is still simulcasting on the 154-430, and they are still on the 154-325. Both of those, I believe, are transmitting a 107.2. I think all three of those are a 107.2 PL. I don't know why that third one's listed as carrier, but it used to always be a 107.2. Anyway, those are like the main channels, right? Those top 3 channels there for Fire Rescue. They're not communicating on these channels. What they're doing is they're simulcasting the trunked system onto these channels. So you'll still hear dispatches on there. You'll still hear traffic on there. So if you're just looking for something to listen to, you know, while you're hanging out or whatever, you will hear traffic on these quite a bit. The 430 and the 325 are both active. I don't know exactly what they've got. This all kind of mixed up a little bit here, but the 430 and the 325 are both still active. Lee Mosquito Control, I do not know if that's still active. I haven't tested it. I do know that the Division of Forestry is still actively using this frequency spectrum. And you'll notice these frequencies, they have a 32 channel band plan, okay? I only put the ones in here that you're going to hear traffic on in Lee County and the surrounding counties. Caloosahatchee Base, that's the channel you're going to hear. Whoops, what happened? That's the channel you're going to hear a lot on. But the most is this one here, 159, 450. That's the one you want for the most traffic there. During brush fires, you'll hear a lot of traffic on here with the tractors responding to the brush fires. And the school buses are all there if you want to hear some boring crap about some bad kids.
Oh, I discovered that school bus thing by accident one time.
Yeah, they're still, believe it or not, on the U. I figured they'd be up on trunk radio by now, but they don't spend a lot of money on it.
No, they don't got no budget.
Yeah, whatever.
So if they have a school bus riot, you'll hear it.
There you go. All right, and here's just some odds and ends. Now, listen, there's a bunch of Marine band frequencies, and technically the whole spectrum for Marine band still in use. But that being said, this is the only thing you're really going to hear a lot of traffic on. If you want more of the frequencies, just look it up and find them. They're right there anywhere online. There's a million sources of them. But that's the one right there. If you just want to program one on your scanner, that's the International Distress Channel, 156-800. And then utilities, those two, the co-op, co-op, that's the Lee County Electric Cooperative, which, by the way, sponsors, I believe, 2 of our repeaters up here, or at least they house them. But they have their own repeater system for their trucks when they're out running trouble and checking lines and stuff. And you can hear that. I do not know if that Florida City Water, but I included it because that's the thing. I think that's one of the things Rick might have been talking about. This is another one of those APRS systems that probably uses a Yagi and sends information back to a central location. So might be something to check out. Might be something to check out because I bet you that would never go trunk. That's something they would keep on UHF just because of the dynamics of it. So I that might be something where we might hear packets being sent on that channel. I don't know. I'm going to check it out one day once there's 90 hours in a day. Southwest Utility Systems, Cape Coral Water and Sewer. I'm sure those are exciting. You definitely want those in your scanner. Cape Coral Water and Sewer, very exciting stuff. I would definitely recommend those. And then Florida Cablevision. Who knows what that is? I never know Florida Cable. I've never heard of it. But anyway, and there's the Edison Mall over there, South Seas Plantation. I don't know how many of these are still in use. I just thought I'd throw them in here. That's what we do in amateur radio. We explore. And so there's a lot to explore. The AAA Auto Club is actually their wreckers that are out running wrecker calls. But I heard a while back that they were going to a digital system. So there might not be any traffic on that anymore. But they actually have nationwide frequency rights on that strange, the 452 megahertz. And they use those radios nationwide, those frequencies. There's actually a group of, I think, 8 or 10 frequencies, and they just hop them up the state so that they put some separation between them. And there's a few more. Seminole Gulf Railroad, they were using that a couple of years ago, but I don't know if they're still using that. And Lee County Sports Complex, if you want to hear about drunk people getting kicked out of a stadium. All right, so there you go. There's all the cool things you can listen to around Lee County. It's such an exciting place. We don't burn down a lot of targets or have a lot of riots here. So,
Ian?
Yeah, go ahead.
I go back to that screen before. I just want to point out that those, like the Gulf Coast Village one, that's really just a local repeater for the handhelds in the building.
Right.
So those are little bitty systems just for
Exactly.
The South Seas plantation. You know, that's for people running around the property. It doesn't go very far. Just little local repeater systems.
Yeah, and like I said, just for exploring purposes, if you've built a big Yagi and you want to put it to a little bit of a challenge, see if you can pick up that South Seas little repeater they got sitting at 15 feet out there on the island. That'd be a little challenge for you. But as I've been kind of making fun of, you're not going to hear anything fun on these channels, except they need to change the sheets in room 217. All right. How can you listen? Well, this is just a quickie here. Your HF rig, mini HF rigs will listen to all kinds of frequencies. My Shack in a Box will dial up to a gigabyte. Now, I don't know if it actually receives on all those frequencies, but it acts like it wants to. And, you know, that's part of it. Scanners, old scanners, believe it or not, you can find old scanners just laying around, and they do pretty good depending on what you want to pick up. But just remember, most old scanners only pick up FM or frequency modulation, so they're not going to work with aircraft and stuff. But some of the newer ones will know it's an aircraft frequency and will actually listen in AM. SDR, software-defined radio dongles, probably the best and cheapest way to explore the spectrum at this point. As long as you turn your gain up, right, Joseph?
Yeah.
I bought one, didn't realize you had to turn the gain up, thought it was a piece of crap, thought it was a fake, and I threw it in my parts box, and it sat there for 6 months till Joseph goes, "You did turn that little gain thing up, right?"
Little gain thingy.
Now I've bought a second one. I'm thinking about buying a third one. So
Never turn the gain up on those too.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I was so aggravated because it is a wonderful little piece of equipment. Not great on the really low band, like on HF. It's not great, but you can buy a piece of equipment to go with it that makes it great on HF. Okay. So, SDR Sharp, many of you that have the, dongles, but you don't even need a dongle to use SDR Sharp. You could actually go into SDR Sharp and tell it that you want to go look at the shared dongles that are out there, and you can actually listen through someone else's shared dongle. And if you want to know how to do that, go back to our previous show 2 or 3 weeks ago, and Joseph explained it all to you back then. It's right there on their YouTube channel. WebSDR, another great place to go and check out the spectrum. Although I will tell you, WebSDR a lot of times will restrict you to amateur radio allocations or just around the area. So you won't be able to explore the law enforcement channels in Utah, for instance, on WebSDR, but you probably can on the SDR Sharp shared dongle thing. And like I said, we went through that. Joseph, am I explaining that well?
Yeah, you are.
Okay. I was making sure.
The spy server network.
Yeah, thank you. I didn't know the name of it. The spy server network through SDR Sharp allows you to pick up mostly all the spectrum, where my SDR, WebSDR, does not. Okay. And of course, your Chinese VHF, UHF radios. This is controversial. Let's not worry about the controversial part. We're all adults here and we know what we're allowed to do. Chinese radios.
Fun part is programming those Chinese radios.
With Chirp, I have never had a problem.
Yeah.
Chirp was a joy to use. It was the first program I learned to use as a ham radio operator.
Fun.
Yeah. If you program it from the front of the radio, you need to be able to speak Chinese and Greek.
And you have to be a masochist.
Yes.
And read it and be able to read it too. I got a TYT 9500, spent about 2 hours on it, and I gave up. The programming screen was in Chinese, and I wanted to put in 220 frequency. It wouldn't let me, even though they said it was a 220 radio, and a little sticker that came inside in the box, but I think it was just VHF.
That's messed up. Okay. Have you plugged it into the programming cable to Chirp and downloaded the radio into your computer?
No, I used a little mini CD that came with it, and then I went to their website, downloaded that program. Came in as a .rar, which had its own problems. When I finally got it,
let me stop you right there. I did this in a net like 8 months ago, and we're gonna do it again. I wasted so much time messing with that. The program that comes from Baofeng or QIT or TYT on that little disc is garbage. I've never used anything that's come on those discs. The drivers, nothing. What you do is you download Chirp, you plug the radio in, you go into Chirp, and you download the code plug from the radio into Chirp. If you want over the weekend, Ham, I would be glad to get on the phone with you and walk you through it. It'd take 5 minutes and we'll program that thing right up.
I might take advantage of that before I send it back.
Please do, because I swear I can help you with that. It's a matter of just plugging it all in, downloading Chirp. Every now and then you have to go in and find it. It's a QIT, but you have to go to BTech and choose a different number or something. But I've never found a Chinese radio that Chirp would not program, and I've known a lot of Chinese radios.
Well, I'll have a Baofeng 220 here Sunday, and the TYT I don't like. So I'll talk to you about that.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I find the TYT and QIT stuff to be of better quality than the Baofeng, but not by much. I think the Baofengs are actually pretty good, and it's all obviously second to the better stuff. But yeah, if I can help you, just let me know, because they send you that disc and it screws everybody up. Here's
probably a virus.
Yeah, it's
that too.
It could be. I'm telling you, those discs, there's nothing helpful on that disc. And even if you can decrypt that RAR file that's on there or whatever it is, it will never work in your computer. It won't work. But I've never gotten a Baofeng or TYT program to work in my computer. But the Chirp programs all those radios without any problem. Here's the key, and I want to stress it here, and we're going to do another show on this. When you're programming from Chirp and most other programs, you want to plug your radio in, and you want to plug the radio in first, plug it into your USB port. Once it's plugged in on both sides, turn the radio on and just lay it down. You don't want to be moving it around and holding it in your hand. You want it to have a nice stable connection, lay it down. Then what you want to do is go to the Chirp program, and you want to download from radio. Even though you don't care about what's in it right now, you need to start with your radio code plug. Don't download, like I'll send you a code plug that has all the frequencies already in it, and all you got to do is just blow it in. But you can't just blow it in. You have to copy the lines by selecting the top one, hitting shift, and selecting the bottom one, right click copy. It's no big deal. And then you go over to the one you took out of your radio, select the first line, right click paste, and then blow it back into your radio. I just gave you the whole procedure right there. That's it. But if you mess that procedure up and you don't move the data into your code plug and put your code plug back in your radio, you're going to have a world of hurt.
That cannot be said enough. Always, always, always download an image from the radio first.
Yeah. Otherwise, you're going to brick your radio.
I thought I bricked one, and I actually went deeper and did like a firmware update on it and was able to get it to come out and was able to reprogram it again. But I went from a Baofeng UV82 code plug and shot it into another UV82 code plug that was a year older, and it already had different programming in it. And because of that, it bricked it. And like I said, I was able to recover it, but it took me a long time and it was stupid. So I just don't want you to have to go through that. Okay. So there you go. And I'll be glad to help, Ham. Seriously. I haven't been doing this long. There's about 3 things I'm good at. FT8's one of them, and Chirp programming is the other one.
Thank you.
I would add
what the
this.
third one is, I'll let you know.
I would add this. Anytime you want to change or edit the program, download an image from the radio, edit it. that way you're taking all the settings from your radio, hanging onto them and putting them back into that radio.
Right.
And, I've never bricked a radio by programming anything, but I learned early on to do that. So try it that way, Ham.
You download that code plug, there's data at the top of the plug that Chirp ignores. Okay, so I know that sounds crazy. All Chirp cares about is your frequency lines. That's all it cares about. It doesn't mess with the actual programming of the radio, like the wattage or the things inside the top of it. All it cares about is the frequency lines. So when you download the wrong code plug into it, the top lines, basically the programming for the radio, is wrong. It doesn't work in that radio. And it's just like your log and logbook of the world. If the lines don't match up, it's a mismatch and the whole thing doesn't work. So there you go. That's all there is with that. Any questions on that real quick? Programming, the radio, the Baofangs, the Chinese radios. Okay, let's get back to here.
Oh, I have one. Yeah, I have a thing about that. Those Baofangs and their programming cables, a lot of the time they the driver won't be correct. You actually have to put a driver in there called the CH340 driver, I think. I have it somewhere here. I might post it, but a lot of the time it'll show up as like a serial device or whatever, and it won't download until you actually put this chipset driver on for the little USB thing. They say it's plug and play, but it's not. So if it's not working and it's showing in device manager with a little triangle next to it, you're going to need that CH340 driver, which you can find on a lot of.
You can do all this stuff in Linux. You can run under Linux. So yes.
Actually, if you're on Linux, you don't even need the driver. I think it just works out of the box. I've definitely
done all my Chirp stuff with Linux. It works beautifully.
Yeah. We should have Ham put Linux on. I'm sure he figured that out very quickly.
Yeah,
right.
Ham, don't feel bad. I haven't done Linux, Unix, Raspberry Pi, Blueberry Pi. I haven't done any of them yet.
Arduino.
I'm doing Windows and I'm stumbling through Android, and that's about as good as it gets right now. All right. I'm telling you guys,
I feel sorry for you if you're stuck on Windows.
Yeah, well, look, nobody's gotten Windows working right yet, so we're still working on it here,
including Microsoft.
Yeah.
Well, Windows 11's coming out soon.
Ew.
Oh, geez, another can of worms to fight with.
Windows 11, another update I fight off.
They should have just gone ahead and moved the number up to 13.
Yeah, there you go.
Windows 13.
I take issue with the fact that Windows calls it an update. It's not an update. It's a downdate.
Get your free Windows downgrade.
You get your free downgrade today.
I love it. Prepare to update the Windows updater.
Yep.
It's a fix with 3 X's.
That's exactly right. It is literally prepare for your system to not work anymore.
Talk about breaking systems.
Bill Gates took our station off the air during Rush Limbaugh.
I had to buy
one of his updates.
I had to buy a new laptop because my Windows 7, July 2nd, they won't let you run Office 365, the Excel, Word, Publisher, etc. And so they said, well, here's your solution. Wipe your old computer. I've had 6 years worth of files and it'll be clean and Windows 10 will work. I said, well, let's see. I'm going to have to back up everything and spend 6 days doing that. I'll probably lose a bunch of stuff. So instead of doing that, I sprung for a Windows 10 PC. So it'll just run those 3 programs.
I got away from the Office programs, and I do everything on Google Documents now. The slideshows you guys watch, I do our sheets, the spreadsheets, Google Docs, the shared docs. Google Slides. I mean, everything I do is a shared Google thing. Even our call screen at work is just a shared Google Doc that we have up on all the screens. Google allows something that I think is absolutely amazing. They allow groupthink, basically. Like, for instance, every week I send Joseph a link for the slideshow, and he actually just clicks this link and goes in, and he can make changes, move things around, and we both work on it at the same time. And if I see a red box moving around, that's the stuff he's clicking on, and I know what he's working on. It's really cool. And we do that with our call screen. We all, for as many of us as have that screen up, we can all be typing on different parts of the screen at the same time. And so Google's a great thing. It allows you to do some really cool stuff. So just an idea there. Okay, let's get to the news. I still don't have a breaking news sounder here, but I feel like I should ding something there. Okay, there's not a lot going on in space weather, but I will tell you, and I don't really have a picture of it. I'll pull up. I don't really have a picture of it, but anyway, space weather, there's not a lot going on, but we do have an active sunspot that's a lot lower on the sun than we normally see, and it's coming around the limb right now. And this sunspot put out a couple of really big explosions on the other side of the sun. So we have to kind of see is this sunspot going to hang on long enough to make it all the way to us? Who knows? But it's coming around now where it's just coming into view, and we're able to actually see it now. And as it comes around the front side of the sun, it's aiming more and more towards us. And there'll be a time for about 36 hours where it's what they call Earth directed. And at that moment in time, if it goes off, it's like a shotgun, and it's going to be heading towards us, and that could give us some really cool radio propagation. But for right now, it's fairly quiet out there, other than this glancing blow of this sideways shooting.
Kind of a sideways thing here. Did you hear about the woman that said she was being chased around by a drone, and they finally and it turned out to be the planet Jupiter?
I heard about that.
You know,
it was a cop
Trey
too.
And I talked. We were actually thinking about talking about that on the show the last couple of days. Trey and I actually went through that in show prep. One of my funny lines I was going to use was, it chased her around for about 8 or 9 days, and it kept moving a little bit to the right each night.
The worst part was that she was a cop.
The worst part was 28 days it came back. Yeah. So anyway, oh my God. Yeah. Well, she's a trained observer. I'll leave it there.
Can't even do that.
I'll leave it there. And I swear to God, if she wrote me a ticket, I'd go to court. I go, this is the cop that thought that Jupiter was chasing her, dude. Anyway. Poor chick. Anyway,
the worst part is that
I feel bad for her because it's a mistake. I mean, it's okay, whatever.
Gee, this woman sounds presidential. Well, I won't go any further than that.
We'll leave that right there. Okay. Where's my sad tuba? Boom, 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 boom. I use that on the air all the time, but I don't have. I need a sound effects button bar. I keep thinking about it. You know, you can't do that stuff on the radio, but I could do it on here. So yeah. I need to get me a sound effects button bar going. That's what I need to do with the Fox News breaking news sound.
Yeah, here. Yeah. You gotta have.
There you go. There you go. That was the regular news open.
We can't get it away on here.
We can get away with a lot on here that we choose not to do, and that's cool too. Okay, so the next thing I want to tell you guys about is the Perseid meteor shower, and yeah, it's coming. This is gonna be pretty good this year, I think. And it starts up. It peaks out on August 11th and 12th. So I'll remind you guys again as it gets closer. This is going to be a pretty good one this year. They're saying in dark sky locations, we could get 100 per hour because the moon is not going to be out during the peak. You guys know with meteor showers, one of the biggest considerations in a meteor shower, of course, is cloud cover and moon condition. And if the skies are clear, it'll be moonless. We'll have the two things we need. Now all we need to do is drive away from the light pollution, and we'll be all set. My wife and I actually drive up to Charlotte County, right up north of the county line, past the dump. On the left there, a couple miles past the dump, there's just a bunch of old roads out there. There's a few houses, but there's no light, not much light pollution out there. And we'll go out there and just park on one of the abandoned roads and just like sit out there on the hood and just look up at the stars. And watch
North Georgia is great for that.
Yeah, my little cabin up there, we do meteor showers up there too. We actually drive over to Notley Dam, and we there's like a little area right there off the road, and we can park, and there's not a street light for like 3 miles.
Nothing.
It's wonderful up there in the mountains, and no light pollution. You can literally see the Milky Way without even trying. It's just like this stripe that goes across the sky. It's amazing. Yeah. I love, if you guys live in a city, or something like Fort Myers that wants to be a city, what you'll notice is Fort Myers is not a real city, dude. What you'll really notice is you'll never get away from the sodium light pollution. It is just that orange light, and now of course with LEDs you're getting a lot more of the white light. It just permeates up, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing. We have to light things up. I'm in the middle on this, but what I am saying is we got to get away from the light if you want to see these things. Don't walk out of your house over on Hanson Street in 41 and look up and go, I didn't see a single meteor. That Hicken's an idiot.
Well, you can always go to North Korea.
North Korea is the best place in the world, except in a boat in the middle of the Atlantic or the Pacific. Here's the best news I can give you all night. There's this little disturbance, which is probably going to turn out to be a coastal event and then turn into a fish storm. And it's not going to affect Florida. And other than this, tropical storm formation is not expected for the next 5 days. So there you go. That's the good news on the tropical update. I love hurricanes, but I know the rest of you hate them. So we're going to talk like we hate them. And don't forget the TechNet newsletter. I've got about 20 folks signed up for the newsletter now, and I'm putting it out about twice a week. It's pretty good. I've been putting everything in there: news, space weather, swap meets, nets, everything. It's basically the ham letter, the ham radio. What's going on? So if you want to try that out, just fill out that little thing that's on the front page right there on SWFLtech.net. And give me your thing. And if at any time you don't want it anymore, you just return the email with cancel or unsubscribe, and I'll take you right off. It's no bones. I'm doing this myself. It's not a service I'm using or anything like that. So I'm doing all this personally through my personal email. So it's at least for a while until it gets too big. So if you want to try it out, just try it out. You can hear all the latest news on what we're doing here and everything that's going on in the ham radio world. It's a pretty cool thing. All right, the next thing is join today to Southwest Florida Tech Team. I think we're up to about 9 members now. We've got people joining, and we're going to be scheduling our second meeting coming up, and we're going to be starting to write our bylaws. So if you want to get in on the founding of a fresh, brand new amateur radio club, a club where you actually get a vote on what we do and when we do it, join the Southwest Florida Tech Team. We'd love to have you. You join by just simply going to the main website, scrolling down on the left until you see that Join Now button in gold and white. Doesn't cost a thing, folks. I'm not asking for money. I'm asking for basically people that are going to be active with me and do things. That's what I'm looking for. This club repeater, you guys know about this. I'm monitoring this as much as I can. I've got it up right now, as a matter of fact. My bow thing that monitors the 220, there it is. That repeater is reading my mind. Okay, that was the WTL, whatever it is, the one here in North Fort Myers. This one here, the WT4T. That repeater is a great footprint. I'm monitoring it. Joseph's trying to monitor it, and I'm asking the people in our club to try to monitor it. So if you guys have an extra radio, just throw it on there. Throw it in your scan routine. And I've got my little Baofeng set on the 220 channel, and then on the other channel, I've got this. And then I built me, I wish I had a picture of it. I built me on a piece of plumbing pipe. I built me a dipole that's a fan dipole, and it looks like this. And it's got a 440 and a 220, 440 and 220 up and down.
Whoa.
And it tunes, everything's under 2 to 1, and it works great. I on 1 watt, I'm crystal clear into both repeaters. By the way, the 220 monster, amazing.
Oh, that thing is really great.
It's amazing. It's at the top of that ring. I want you guys to know a little history. That tower that it's on, that's the old UTS phone tower, United Telephone System, from back in the 70s. That tower used to have about 12 or 10, maybe 8, but a lot of these big horns. They were big. They were big, square on the sides and the bottom, and kind of round on top looking horns. And they came in like an old phonograph into a point, and they had a receiver that sat like this on the bottom of them. And what those used to do, and I noticed for a fact, my aunt and uncle used to work for UTS. My uncle ran their shop for their trucks, and my aunt worked in the as a dispatcher in the trouble department. And those horns that they had up there that faced east used to send signals to another tower, identical tower, that still sits south of Moorhaven. Then there's another tower that sits in West Palm. That was the cross-state interconnect for long-distance phone calls back in the 70s. If you called long distance in 1973 from Fort Myers to West Palm, you would go through those microwave horns to the center point in the state, and then hop skip over to the other side of the coast. And that was the latest thing. They didn't have to stretch more wires.
On that tower has been there since before the mid 1950s. And I know that because I grew up in Fort Myers. And I used to live over there on Huff Street, and that tower was there before Hurricane Donna, which was 1960. So it's been around a long time.
I think it survived Donna with those big horns on it, because that's why it was put up, was the big microwave.
That's a badass tower. Nothing has knocked that down yet.
But that's why, if you look at that tower, and I don't have the picture of it here available, but if you look at that tower, the ring at the top of that tower, it's got kind of a strange double ring at the top that looks strange. That's because those used to hold the tops of those big horns around at the top of the tower, and it also used to have some other smaller, like drum type receiver or transmitters up the tower, antennas up there, and it was very well used for a long time. Now, not very used at all. But if you look where our antenna is actually at the top of that tower, and that's the highest tower in downtown. So I think it's amazing. I think it's absolutely amazing. And from here, with my little antenna at 12 feet at 1 watt on my Baofeng, it's full quieting, absolutely full. So very, very happy with the club's repeater. They did a great job with that. Pantasis and those guys.
They did fantastic.
Yeah, so they did a good job with that. So great system that they put together there. All right. Who was the other guys on that? I don't want to miss anybody. I think Darley worked on it. Darley got us the tower space.
Oh yeah. Well, of course, he was the one he works for CenturyLink.
Right.
So
he got us the tower space, and he also kind of spearheaded part of it with Pantasis, and there was Steve Smith, W9GPI, was heavily involved with it as well. So there was one other person involved, and I can't think. I don't want to leave anybody out, but there was a lot of people involved. Of course, the president, Steve. There was just a lot of support there. I was really glad to see that the club got behind the 220, because that could have went either way. It was kind of could have went either way. And then the net Wednesday night, I was late getting in. But correct me if I'm wrong, John, was 15 or 16 of us in there?
There's at least 15.
That's a new record for the new net, and it's a new record for the old net.
Yeah.
So that was amazing to have 15 or 16 people on that odd band all at one time.
On
So,
220, yeah.
Yeah. So that
I'm
was.
glad
that
to
was
know
good.
there's that many 220 radios around here.
I was kind of surprised when I got home late and I turned it on, and they're still going because I didn't have my 220 radio with me. All I had was my VHF with me in the van, so I didn't figured you guys would be off, and I get home like 40 minutes after it starts, and they're still going on there.
Still going.
So
Yeah.
that was good. I was glad to see that. But anyway, all right. So just to finish up with this, our club repeater is the WT4T on LCEC. That's in North Fort Myers, right on Bayshore Road near Hart, near Old Bridge. Actually, is the closest intersection. And it's a great footprint on that. I think we may be starting a radio net on this eventually. And we're in the planning stages. So I'll let you guys know as that planning goes on. But there's going to be a group of us that are going to take like one night a month type of thing, and we're going to do a technology net. And we're looking at some really cool stuff. I don't want to let all the cats out of the bag yet, but we're really talking about some neat stuff. If you guys want to get involved with this, let me know. This is going to be a tech team thing. We want to do a net where each week we do a radio net, but we're also going to explore something else. We may do SSTV, or we may try something on HF that we don't normally do. We may send a WinLink. We're going to do stuff that we don't normally do. It's going to be a little different than your other radio nets, but it's not going to be an instructional net like this. It's going to be more like a practice type net. So we'll see how that goes. We're working on that. We're looking at some different options on repeaters and stuff. So if anybody has any suggestions or wants to help with this project, let me know. This is going to be a fun thing once we get it going. All right. The only big contest this weekend is the RSGB IOTA, whatever, contest. What is IO? IO is...
Islands on the
air. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. I haven't done anything with that one.
Yeah. When it came to knowing what that was, I had not one iota of information about that in my head. So I don't know what
See, you're just asking the wrong people. You asked me, I'll tell you.
I know. I should have you guys doing this. Just present this for me, and I'm going to go to bed because I'm so tired right now. As a matter of fact, we're actually getting done a little early tonight, and I'm not complaining. So, all right. Anyway, this is what we have. There's this one contest. If you want to find out more, just go to the contest tab. There's a bunch. I want you guys to understand something. There is a bunch of contests every weekend, but I only put up the ones that span a period of more than 12 hours usually. There's a lot of sprints and little 1 hour dealy doos, and I'm not going to waste our time with that. This one here is a pretty big deal, so I put it up. Anyway, that's all we got there. This is an interesting thing, and I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on it, but this was a neat thing. I don't know if you guys saw this. There was a study done in the UK, and they asked 1,000 active current amateur radio operators a series of about 100 questions. Okay, it was one of those comprehensive polls. This is what they come up with. When during the survey, they asked the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities, and the threats to amateur radio. And so first, when they did this, I don't know why that slide's all screwed up, but anyway, this first slide here, despite all the words being messed up, is actually the strengths. And I'm just going to read through this. These were the things that the people that they surveyed thought were the biggest strengths in amateur radio: friendship, community, support, social, like-minded camaraderie, safe, a friendly hobby with little evidence of class and ethnic barriers, offering companionship and assistance across the hobby spectrum and beyond into social domains with a sprinkling of competitiveness, learning, training, educating, hams, online, exams, online, self-training, self-learning, online exams open the hobby to everyone. Education, I think that was the 220. Educational hobbies that encompass many technical interests, something for everyone. Technical, developing, innovative, a fascinating, technical, challenging hobby at all levels, encouraging innovation, creativity, experimentation, discovery, and promoting technical understanding and achievement. And finally, emergencies, diversity, communication, potential to add value to local communities in an on-demand service to provide communications and support local communities. So these are all the things that these guys said were the strengths. Now, of course, you know I can't do the strengths without doing the bad side. So here's some of the weaknesses. Now, these aren't the worst thing, but these are some of the weaknesses that came out in this thing. It's important to examine what we do and who we are. And so that's why I do this. Socially and technically, we're a bunch of conservative old men. Yeah, I agree with that. I'm kind of a conservative old man myself, but I'm still somewhat pliable and flexible. The majority of radio amateurs are old men who prefer things the way they are when they're the way they were when they were young. There's been a failure to engage or attract interest in any significant numbers of women and younger people of ethnic minority in taking part in amateur radio activities. And I have to agree with that. I see a lot of that dealing with local clubs and dealing with a lot of people here. That is probably, one might argue, the number one or number two thing right below HOAs that is absolutely just making it very difficult right now for new people to come in. Because when new people get into amateur radio, you really don't get a say, you really don't get to do much, and you really don't get told much. It's kind of a messed up thing. And so we definitely got to work on that. And I proposed things to FMARC, and I know they actually are doing some of it, and that's good. There has to be that constant working to get more people involved. The continually degrading noise floor. This was something that came up a lot in the study, which I thought was very interesting. They say it's a result of DSL, consumer devices, and the continual electronic evolution in all forms, making receiving amateur radio signals difficult to impossible for many, particularly those in a urban environment. And you know, I've only been an amateur radio operator for probably a year, a year and a month now. I don't know where my noise levels would have been 10 years ago or 20 years ago. But I can tell you right now, my noise level on 20 is right just north of suck. It's bad. I can't, when I'm looking at my FT8 waterfall on 40 or on 80 or even on 6, I see beautiful, strong red and yellow signals coming in. When I go to 20, I get a perfect SWR, which I know makes little difference with your receive side. But I'm perfectly SWR'd out. I'm on a long antenna, inverted V, and everything else. And my noise floor is so bad that it almost wipes out my waterfall, and I can hardly see the signals in the noise. But it's mostly just on 20 meters. So I see this too. I'm dealing with some of this myself. So they're saying that people that live right in like downtown areas in these big cities, that the noise floor is so bad that it literally makes a lot of bands unusable, even with digital equipment. And so this came up a lot during this survey. I was very surprised how many times this kept coming up. Does anybody have any comments on noise floor as it creeps up on us here?
That's pretty much what you said. It's certain bands. I know that a lot of appliances make a big amount of noise. Like I can't even use anything below 6 megahertz in the Huntsville receiver because it's completely just the noise floors all the way to the top, all across the whole band.
Yep.
Even AM stations barely make it through.
The BHI DSP noise canceling speaker, it's a model NES 10-2 MK4, is a marvelous piece of equipment. It clears a whole lot of stuff up. I highly recommend it.
Wow. I have to write that down because I've never heard of that.
Yeah, I know. I've had a lot of, the noise level on the 75 meter band. I talked to a bunch of guys up in Atlanta on Thursday nights. And the last couple of weeks, I have not been able to hear anybody up there. And I know they're on. And what I did was get on a web SDR receiver in Birmingham, and I was able to hear them. At least I was able to and I could give a call from here. I said testing. I put my call on our usual frequency, and the guy up there came back to me, but I could only hear him on the Birmingham receiver. But we carried on a conversation that way. But the 75 meter band can be just horrible, particularly this time of year. Go up on 40 and it's just as clear as can be.
Yeah, 40 is wonderful. 80, I don't see as many people on 80, but it doesn't seem to have a high noise floor. Or 75. I don't see a lot of, I don't know. It's hard because it's hard to judge because not as many people are on 80.
Yeah.
There's just not near the people. 40 at night gets so busy sometimes that I go somewhere else because there's too many people in the FT8 swath for me to find a parking spot.
Yeah. Well, 40 and up, the antenna requirements are fairly small. But for 80, you need I've got an in-fed half wave that does 80 meters and it's 130 feet long. If you don't have the real estate for it, you can bend the antenna and that kind of thing, but it's still more difficult than the other bands.
Yeah, and I mean, I can even get on 160 a little bit, but I do it with my random wire, I got a dipole wire, just a standard old wire on a big old ladder line, and I can tune to it well enough that I know I'm not hurting my radio. And I've made a few contacts on it just to say I have. But 75, I played on 75 last night for a couple hours on FT8. Yeah. And I find 40 gives me more distance than 80 or 75.
Oh, sure it will.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Matter of fact, 40 is my all-around best band.
40 and 30 are two of the best bands in ham radio. And 20, and then the upper bands are, of course, a little more, sporadic depending on the conditions.
Literally.
Yeah. But everything else is 40 is probably the most reliable ham band there is.
Right. Yeah, I know. I love me some 40. When when everything else is out, I can still go to 40 and make some contacts with people. So yeah. I did 6 for a little while today. I got to tell you, I've noticed something weird about 6. As the sporadic E comes out of Europe in the morning, it's running north of here every day now. And I don't know if it's because we're getting towards the end of season. The reflective clouds are they're too far north for me to reflect off of. They're coming across like New York and through the Northeast. And I can see a lot of connections between like North Carolina and Canada and between Texas and New York. And you can see them all crisscrossing, but I'm down here in Florida and the cloud's not far enough south for me to get into it. So I'm looking at nothing. I'm shooting a Yagi at this cloud that's too far away and my waterfall is completely clear. And, I don't know why, but for some reason, the reflective clouds have been running further north the last 3 or 4 or 5 days. I would love to understand more about sporadic E and these magic clouds and the aliens that drive them around.
Hayanos.
Yes.
Spanish
I think it's the Greys, but I'm not sure. But anyway, yeah, I love sporadic E because it's a mystery and because it's the only HF, well, it's not HF, it's VHF technically, but it's the only, lower band frequency that I have a Yagi on. All my other stuff, I literally just toss it up in the air and see where it comes down. But this one, I can actually point it in one direction. And I like that. It gives me a whole, it went from 2-dimensional chess to 3-dimensional chess. I like that. All right. So anyway, let's just finish this up real quick. Public perception is an issue. Public is not aware of amateur radio, and those that are aware hold it in poor regard. Not enough is done to promote amateur radio and to change this public perception. Remember, this is from the UK, but I think we suffer from a lot of that here. There was there's so many opportunities every day to go by where we could involve the media and we could involve uh, schools and colleges. There's just so many things we can do. And of course, I eventually want to get into some of that with the tech team. Um, because I don't see much outreach right now. There was we've been getting a little bit of press lately, but not much. And I blame some of that on the groups. I blame some of that on the Ham guys in general, the group of everybody. And I blame a lot of it on just the media not being interested. We have to really make it exciting for these people because
the media has its own agenda, unfortunately.
They do. And let me tell you what, if the story was a ham fell off the roof while he was putting his antenna up and broke his neck and died, they would be there.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
particularly if they can blame it on a certain ex-president.
Yeah, our story. Yeah, there you go. Especially our stories are good news. Good news is the bottom of the barrel.
That's right.
And unless our news turns bad, and of course we all pray and hope it never does, we're never going to be the top of the barrel for news. And then you add that to the fact that they're hiring people that are like 11 years old that come in there and they write news stories, and they're like, I was taught how to write this in college like 9 months ago, and it's just terrible writing. Go on any TV news website and look for grammatic errors in the stories that they post. It is terrible. I'm like, these are journalists. No, not really. All right. No. So anyway, the national societies and clubs are not seen as adequately representing or supporting the best interests of amateur radio by many respondents. It was surprising to me. I know they have their own national association over there. There was a lot of disdain for their national association over there for not doing anything. A lot of the same problems we have with our associations over here. They collect your money, they send you a magazine, but you know, whatever. HOAs and regulatory restrictions. This always comes up, and it seems to be one of the really, really big problems. And then finally, these are the things that the people that they surveyed thought were the biggest threats to amateur radio. Number one, noise interference, pollution levels. We talked about that. It's interesting to me that they specifically mentioned DSL, solar, LEDs, PSU. A question on this real quick. I thought switching to LEDs and solid state, everything, you know, being LED and everything, I thought that reduced the noise. Like, I know sodium lights and fluorescent lights and metal halide lights and the old mercury vapor lights, they all put out radio interference and buzz and everything else. I actually thought by going to LED, we would be reducing the amount of RF pollution out there.
A lot of the LED transformers are cheaply made, and therefore put out a lot of RFI. And it's not really the LEDs themselves, it's the transformers that's used to run them.
That makes perfect sense, John. Oh, well, that sucks, because I was kind of hoping we would improve the mess that we have on there. Regulators, national and local, overregulation, lack of regulatory support for amateur matters, enforcement, antenna planning, permissions, things like that.
Aren't those two things kind of diametrically opposed? Overregulation and lack of regulatory support? It seems to me that that's two opposite issues.
Well, I think what they're meaning by lack of regulatory support is the lack of the regulators to work with us on improving the situation. That's how I understood that. But I agree with you. It doesn't really read well. But I think this is translated from UK.
From UK. So, they speak British over there.
Yeah, they speak British over there. I translate pretty good. This one here says, bloody hell. Okay. So anyway, age demographics, diversity, we talked about that, an aging hobby, poor diversity. We have got to find a way to get younger folks in. I talk about this almost every week. Internet amateur issues, internal amateur issues. These are your usual ones. The digital modes are ruining ham radio, abuse, which I don't see a lot of. I actually find amateur radio people to be one of the best self-policing entities I've ever seen or been around in my life. We broke more rules as a fire department than we break in ham radio. So I don't. Okay, I think we're doing okay there. Exams. Again, I think over here we're not having a problem. I think over there they're having more of a problem with availability of exams between all the clubs doing it and everything. We actually don't have that much of a problem. And online exams are becoming very popular. I took my general online, and it was a wonderful experience. I would suggest it. Although I also believe that the FMARC's testing program is also very good. And I got my tech from those guys. External amateur issues, poor presence, mainstream public. We talked about all this stuff. It's pretty much the same list again. But I just thought that was interesting. They surveyed all these people, and that's what they came up with. Pretty much stuff we kind of already knew. And we're back to that same thing again. We can't do much about the noise floor. So I think what we can probably do is be more inviting to new people and try to find ways to interest new people. I think that's how we got to do the best we can right now. And vote out people that are in homeowners associations.
Try to stay out of homeowner associations if you can.
I'll be honest. I lived in one. I bought a repossessed home, townhouse in 1992 in Bay Point condominiums out here by the Civic Center. And it was a beautiful townhouse. I got it for like 30 grand. It was like a song. And I went in there and fixed it all up, and it was just beautiful. I lived there for about 15 years, about 12 years, something like that. And when I moved into that place, everybody on the board was an electrician or a plumber or a fireman. There was a bunch of firemen in there that worked at several different departments around the area. There was a lot of journeymen in there for different trades. There was air conditioner guys in there. It was a working class HOA. It was like a multi-family complex, and they were owner complexes, not a rental complex. It was an own. We all owned our units, and you weren't allowed to rent to people, or if you did, you had to go through a process or whatever. So anyway, we got this whole thing. Shortly after I bought this place and moved in, it began. People from up north started moving down, and they started slowly taking over the board. And it wasn't long before the board was completely taken over by a bunch of folks that were retired and had moved down here. And one was a former mayor, and one was a former business owner, and one was a former fire chief, and one was a former this, and one was a former that. And they all came down here because they missed their power from up north. So they all came down here and got on the board. Next thing you know, my cats are illegal. My neighbor's dog is illegal. My fire department vehicle is illegal. And it was disgusting. My DSL dish was illegal. My antenna that I had outside was illegal. And I had to I fought these people for years.
Yeah.
I sent them a letter. I said, look, I've had this cat since I moved in here. I've had this cat for 10 years. What do you propose I do with this cat? And they wrote me back, and they suggested euthanasia.
Yeah. Bunch of real fine folks.
Yeah. Well, revenge is a dish that is best served cold. I'll just leave it at that. But I finally sold the place and moved out of there. And, but I know how these places are. You move in with the best intentions. You move in with a situation where, yeah, I can put my antenna up, no problem, or I can do that. And next thing you know, your Hitler works there, and
yeah, Hitler is taking over.
So I think HOAs are literally the scourge of amateur radio. All right. So anyway, just spread the word about the TechNet, guys. Get the word out there. Let people know about the TechNet. All right, let's open it up to you guys. We're now opening it up to topics from anyone, anywhere that has any topic that John can tell you how to fix. Now.
All right.
You give me way too much credit, Ian.
You've helped me get going a few times. I'll tell you what, my biggest piece of advice to amateur radio operators is when you decide to do something, find someone else that's done it and have them walk you through it. It's just so much easier. Unless you're just one of those people that want to learn it yourself and you also have a few extra keyboards
That you can smash, huh?
that you can smash. You know, it's funny when I shouldn't tell people that, I shouldn't say stuff like this, but a funny thing, when I moved out of that condo after being there for like 12 or 14 years, we found like 40 different keys behind my big huge computer console that I had in there. This big, it was half Motorola and half this big thing I built, and it was one of those pieces of furniture that you never move.
Oh,
When I moved out, we disassembled it to move it, and I found about 40 keys from about 10 different keyboards back there. Where did all those keys come from? Man, they just keep popping off. I don't know. Strangest darn thing I've ever seen. But I don't have that problem much anymore, so that's a good thing. And I never take, you know, what I find is don't take it out on humans and don't take it out on anything worth more than $20. Keyboards are about 18 bucks.
Well, for a crappy one, I mean, I can get a pretty good keyboard for 18.
Well, I don't, and I don't buy crappy keyboards anymore. I got a really nice.
You're not doing near as much
colors. Look at, I've had this for like a year and it's still in one piece.
Whoa, hey, you got the lights.
It changes color. It does all. Yeah, see, it does all kinds.
Like
of
mine.
color.
I think that's the same keyboard I have.
Walmart, $40 or $30 or whatever it was. So
I like the ones that are wireless. Otherwise, I get
it kind of morphs there.
Wireless.
You know what?
Yes.
I'm gonna tell you something I learned about wireless. They take batteries.
Yeah, I know. That's the only problem.
No.
And the batteries always choose the worst possible time to go dead.
I don't do anything with batteries unless it pops in a charger. I don't do anything with batteries anymore. I hate batteries.
Well, I don't hate all batteries. I just hate alkaline batteries. I call them alka-leaks because they leak inevitably.
Yeah, they do.
Those things suck. I don't care if it's an Everleak or a Duraleak. They leak.
Yep, they do. And if you've got a MFJ antenna analyzer, you could put rechargeable batteries in that.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
No.
Leave it empty. Don't put any
I
batteries.
power mine externally. I've got an MFJ antenna analyzer.
Yep,
I
do
Hook
too.
it up to 12 volts like I do a radio.
When Tom Lambie sold it to me, he says, don't put no batteries in this. And I've talked to probably 7 different people that have told me, don't ever put batteries in that.
I've never put
when they leak in there,
mine.
your analyzer's ruined.
Yeah.
So.
Might need to check the batteries in mine because I definitely put batteries in ours.
Now, I will say, Joseph, if you put the right ones, the 2.2 rechargeable, NiCad, whatever, if you read the thing and you put the exact ones in there, and then you don't sit it and leave it on charge for more than 12 hours, you might be okay.
Oh, wait, hold on. I'm thinking
That's
of AA batteries.
Yeah, it takes like AA rechargeables inside.
Oh, we just have normal AA in there.
Yeah, if you have normal AA's in there, what it does is it'll charge them it'll try to charge them and they'll leak.
Oh, we never see, we don't have the DC plug for it.
Oh, you just use it on batteries?
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll probably be all right then. But I like to external power mine.
Well, because then you can carry it to places like, I mean, we use it all over the place.
Yeah,
so
no, I get it. I understand that it's better, but we're talking about this, guys. For those of you who don't know what we're talking about, this right here is basically the industry standard antenna analyzer.
Yeah.
If you want the best analyzer, you can get ones that do more. And you can get ones that are fancier, have more bells and whistles, will tell you that'll do Smith scale, or what's that stupid thing? I always forget the name of it. Smith chart. It'll do all kinds of neat stuff. It'll make coffee on Mondays. But this one, when it comes down to building antennas and sweeping, this is the best one, in my opinion. And it's like $300 and it's worth the price. Make sure you get the one with the UHF button on top. if you buy one, I've already talked to 2 different people that bought one of these, and they didn't realize it didn't have that button when they got it. They thought they got a really good deal, and they got a pretty good deal. It's still worth it without the button, but if you get the one with the UHF button, now you can actually SWR UHF antennas as well.
Yeah.
What an amazing piece of equipment. One of my favorite pieces of equipment I've ever used in my life. I just love this thing. I hook it up. I hook my antenna. I go to the frequency I'm wanting to tune it on, and then I play with the antenna until I get the exact reading that I want.
Yeah, you can see this one.
Yeah,
and
there you go.
You see how I power it.
Yep. And it's, yeah, I got just a little wall mold.
It's the exact same one. 269. Yeah, MFJ 269. Got a little dust on it, but it works.
I've got a wall mold for mine in the case, and then I also have a connector for it over here by my radios that just comes off my 12-volt power supply, and that way I don't have to pull out the wall mold and all that if I need to use it in here. But yeah, I really like that. That's a really good analyzer. All right, next topic. Anything, anybody, anywhere, come now. You can even put it in the chat room if you're shy. Put in the chat room, hey, talk about this. And as long as it's not pornography or politics, we'll do it.
Well, I can do one. Just now, or actually it was closer to about 20 minutes ago, I heard something really loud, and it was a plane flying right over our house, really low. So I plugged in my RTL SDR dongle into my beam antenna and turned on the software, and I had a live tracker up right away. And it was better than trying to use the website, because the website kept dipping out, like it would freeze while I was trying to watch. Oh, there goes the plane again. I just heard it again. But yeah, there, I see it on my map right now. It got the track and everything, and it's been doing loops over Buckingham. It's the mosquito control. So it pops up saying the tail number. It says Lee County Mosquito Control. And I could see on the map the plane flying right over my house, which it literally just did.
It's probably, if I would guess, it's a DC-3.
Does it just go out of range? Hold on.
They used to have a fleet of 7 of those DC-3s.
It's a TC. It's a Beechcraft TC-12B.
No, that's a smaller one.
Yeah, it's a twin engine. It says twin turbo.
I'm sure Rick can remember waking up in the morning and opening your front door and seeing 5 or 6 of those coming across the tops of the trees. Oh my God. And we used to get
they fly so low you want to reach up and scratch the belly as it went over.
Yeah. My first day, I wish I had the tape to play for you guys. I had the tape for years and I can't find it anymore. I had a cassette tape, an old orange and white cassette tape that dispatch gave me. My first day as a lieutenant, 1992, my first day as a lieutenant, I put on my fresh white shirt that had never been worn before and put my gold bars on. Or bugles, and I'd never been an officer before. And I walk out in the bay for the very first time, and I'm standing there, and my partner walks up to me and he goes, "Do I got to salute now, LT?" And we were screwing around, and right then the tones drop, and then the fire tone drops, and then the administrative tone drops, and they come on. Bayshore Fire Department reported plane crash north of Bayshore Road on I-75. Callers advising the plane burst into flames and went down, possibly a DC-10 size aircraft. And I'm like, WNHK 474, message received. Retone our station. Do this. I need 2 engines from north, an engine from the shores. I need CFR. The whole book. I'm literally running the game plan out of the book. This like my first call. I run, I get in one truck, my partner gets in another truck. We start going, we got volunteers coming in, everybody running code, 12 EMS units coming. We got Oshkoshes coming from the airport. We got everything going on. We get there. I have nothing. I can't find it. We got Air 4 in the air. We got Chopper 1 from the Sheriff's Department. Nobody can find this thing. We're looking everywhere. And then they call up and they go, be advised, the DC-3s just landed over at Mosquito Control. They were up flying around in that area about 25 minutes ago.
What? So what was the fire? Why did they?
When these Mosquito Control, when they buzz, we went back and listened. They got 9 calls on it. They buzzed the interstate, and when they buzzed the interstate, they were right above the tree line, and they were on a single plane that morning. And when they come across the top of the interstate, it was trailing all that smoke out the back because they were fogging for mosquitoes.
Oh.
And all 9 different people pulled over at the rest area or at Bayshore Road exit, and they all ran into Lawhon's Grocery and everywhere they could find a payphone, and they were all calling 911 to let us know that a plane had crashed. And they were sending Tice down there because 2 different people reported it near the hydroelectric plant, which we don't have, but we figured they meant the power plant. And then we had other people reporting it north of Bayshore Road. And oh my God, let's play. And we're listening to we went back and listened to these 911 calls, and they're like, oh, those people, it was bursting in flames, and it was
I can see how it would look like that.
You can see how it would look like that. I can't believe if 9 different people stopped off an interstate to call 911, it must have looked pretty darn impressive. Oh my gosh. I can remember
they streaming out of those things. That's what makes them think it's going to crash.
People don't realize that the base in that stuff they used to spray on us in the morning and when we were walking to school, that stuff was based as diesel fuel.
Oh yeah.
That's the actual thinning agent that they use in as diesel fuel. Yeah. So
and it stunk.
It stunk like a diesel truck farted. Does that make sense? I mean, it kind of had that sour but truck smell. Anyway, yeah. For those of you who moved down here later, you missed all that.
For about 5 minutes, we didn't have any pterodactyl mosquitoes.
Yeah.
That explains a lot, though.
Yeah, it explains the Dane bramage. Or is it pronounced brain damage? I don't know. Anyway,
I guess that woman that thought that Jupiter was a drone, maybe she was one of the people that called in.
Oh, could have been. You know, honestly, if I saw a plane like go over the interstate right at tree level with smoke pouring out of the back of it, I probably would have called too.
Well, yeah.
I mean, I would have called, and then I would have drove there and seen if I could have found it.
I did that one time when I was at Barksdale Air Force Base in Louisiana. They had a big fire out the back of the base, and I was in those days we were on 2 meters, had auto patch, so I called the base and said there's a fire out in the back of the base someplace, and they said it's okay, it's just a practice run. But I called in to the base, the air police about it. So, because it looked like there was a serious fire on the back of the base, and they've got nukes stored back there and everything. There's all kinds of good stuff back there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. There was a time in this county where if you were going to light a match and have a fire during the day, you had to call forestry and let them know.
Oh yeah.
They had rangers up in the towers, and they would go up in those towers about 11 o'clock and 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning, and they'd stay up there till dark, and they would run those towers. And what they would do is they would look for what they called a smoke, and they would look for 360 degrees. And they would look for a smoke, and if they saw smoke, they would get on the radio. There was as a matter of fact, the frequencies on that list I showed you earlier, it's called tower to tower. They still do it, except they're not using the towers anymore. But they still use most of those frequencies.
I always wanted to have one of those towers for a ham radio shack.
Oh, you're telling me that'd be the best ham radio shack ever.
Yeah.
Except you have to climb it.
Yeah, I mean, how awesome would it be to have an HF antenna as long as you want with 3 feet of coax? Yeah. Oh man, could you imagine? But they used to sit up in those towers, and they would look out, and when they see a smoke, they would call up. This is the Thakahatchee Tower. I see smoke at 212 degrees, and they would look for an azimuth. They would get the exact azimuth of the smoke, and they would call it in at 212 degrees. So then the Caloosahatchee Tower say, I see that same smoke on my telescope, and I've got it at 119 degrees. And they would literally triangulate. And if you could get 3 towers, 2 was enough, but if you could get 3 towers to see that same puff of smoke coming up. You could get that down to a city block.
Oh,
It
yeah.
was almost amazing that they could pinpoint that smoke. Now, there was a margin of error because sometimes one tower was seeing a different smoke than the other tower was, and that would end up sending the fire department to a completely wrong place. And that used to happen sometimes, but they were pretty good. Nowadays, with cell phones and with the fact that we don't have as near as many woods now, they've decommissioned the towers. Many of them have been sold. A lot of them are just sitting there unused, but there's no one manning those towers anymore.
There's one of those outside of my hometown in a state park at the top of a big hill.
There you go.
And boy, the stories that thing could tell.
I can imagine.
I went up. Of course, you couldn't get in the cupola itself; it was locked. But you could go up to the very top flight, as I did many, many times. But there were a couple of times I took a handheld up there, and was able to hit a repeater about 70 miles away. Actually work a guy on a repeater about 70 miles away, because I was on the top of a big hill and then I was above the tree line. So
yeah.
I could do that on 5 watts on my FT50.
It's amazing.
Wow.
Height is literally the number one thing.
Yep.
And antenna is number 2, I think.
And gain. Lots of gain.
Feed lines 3. Gain's in there 4 or 5, I guess. I don't know.
More gain.
More aluminum.
More aluminum. More power too.
More
You
power.
may wind up hitting 3 or 4 repeaters if you have too much gain.
That's true.
That's possible.
That's the problem. It's the problem I'm running into.
There's already been one morning I come out here about 4 months ago, turned on my radios, and I hear a net going on. It was like 7 o'clock in the morning, and there's a net going on. I'm like, who the hell is that?
That's
like,
John's net.
It was in Bradenton.
Oh,
No, not Bradenton. I'm sorry. It was a tower up between Lakeland and Brandon, up in that area.
yeah, okay.
East of Tampa. And they're on the 685.
Oh yeah, I hear them all the time.
And I looked them up, figured out what they were, programmed in their frequency, their same frequency pair. I programmed in their PL tone and checked in on the net. But it only works when tropospheric ducting's on. So anyway.
Were they speaking Spanish on 92.5?
Yes. Anytime I'm listening to the if I'm talking to the Bradenton repeater on the 680, people listening to 92.5 Fox News are listening to Spanish music in North Fort Myers. Yeah. Yeah. That happens all at the same time. It's great. And people down in Alamorada are listening to us instead of their station down in the Keys.
Yeah.
So,
At least it works both ways.
It's weird because it generally pushes south. I've never seen it pushing north.
That's really weird.
Yeah, which puts people in the northern part of our listening area at the biggest disadvantage. So once again, the poor people get screwed. Yeah. All right. Anyway, I'm just kidding mostly, but anyway, it is kind of weird how it works out with that. People don't realize in this area, if you've never really looked at a map, you can fit 2 of Lee County inside Collier County.
Yeah.
It's huge. Right. And so if we want to reach people in Marco Island, we have to put out a bow tie that's sending a lot of our signal south. And that's what we're doing. We're actually putting out an envelope to the north and an envelope to the south. We're trying to bow tie basically our signal is how our towers, our stick is set up. And we're trying to send as much, and they send more of the energy south than I think north because we're trying to hit Marco Island. So our tower's in Estero. So.
Yeah. Well, Collier County is bigger than some states.
It is. People don't realize how big Collier County is. You can go to the far end of Marco Island, and if you want to leave there and go to Immokalee, it's an hour and 20 minutes away, hour and 30 minutes away. Yeah, this is no BS. And I'm not talking traffic. That's just driving. Now, you want to do it at 5 o'clock, it's 2 hours away. So yeah, it's Collier County is huge. So an interesting thing. Anyway, yeah, you're not gonna, Howard, we're FMARC is working on connecting some repeaters here. It would be a much bigger challenge to connect Collier County like that. It would
Speaking of that,
more repeaters.
I was talking to someone in Naples before the TechNet started on the 450 linked system, and he said, he was asking about the TechNet because they know about it even down there. He was asked about TechNet, and he thought it was on the radio again because he was thinking of it when it first started and it was on the radio. But he was saying how if we go back to radio, or if we have a radio net, it'd be really cool if they could get it down there. So he was suggesting that I guess the FMARC contact the club down there. I don't know what their club is called down there.
Those are not club repeaters. Those are privately owned repeaters.
No, down in Naples, I'm saying.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'd have to get with them because the guy down there was saying it would be cool if when we did our net that they were linked down there too.
I would be very surprised if the owner of those repeaters would allow that.
Why? Do it anyway. Just do it. Just link it up when he's not listening. He will never know.
Yeah.
He will never know.
To make them happy.
Well,
But yeah,
I would like to get a hold of several different owners of two repeaters because I'd like to ask them some questions, because you know what? I would think that most of these repeater owners would want activity on their repeater as long as it doesn't damage or take out service anything. But who knows? It is good to ask.
They got to save their transmission fluid.
That's what it is.
That's right. Transmission fluid's expensive these days.
Yeah. Especially on those big towers, because you have to have blinker fluid too.
Right.
Yeah, for the lights,
Yeah.
planes don't hit it.
But anyway. All right, guys, it's 10 o'clock. Have we missed anything tonight? Does anybody have anything else
That I can think of.
I think that was pretty good. I like that was a little bit shorter because
Yeah.
it was a good one to
I
do
don't
though.
have 3 hours in me tonight. I don't.
This was a good topic to do.
Yeah.
The band.
Well, and you guys know we both have not had a good week, so it's been this was kind of put together. So just bear with us on this one. And I do appreciate everybody that's coming in. There's a lot of people coming in tonight. I just want to recognize everybody. Vivian from Port Charlotte's in. I hear Vivian on the Sunshine Net quite a bit, and Rick is in, of course, and Paul, Larry, and another Paul. Something in Ham Radio, we don't get very diverse with the names. We've got like 19 Steves, and anywhere I go, there's enough Steves for a quorum. There's
Steve 4, Steve 9.
Yeah, and there's at least a gaggle of Leos too. So, but yeah, and I think there's a couple of Johns as well. But anyway, Jason and Ham and Dave and Alan and Rick and Joseph and everybody out there, I really appreciate it. And of course, that guy, John. But
that guy.
That sounds like a perfume ad from the 80s. It's that guy. It's that guy. Anyway, all right. Does anybody have anything else?
One real quick thing. To anybody who's using SDR Sharp, and since we were doing the band, spectrum today, a resource I found for SDR Sharp, which is really cool. If whenever you're tuning around, there will be a little red bar on the bottom that says like 2 meter ham band or 40 meter ham band CB or whatever. And there's a little bit of a band plan marker built into SDR Sharp. But it's not really detailed, and it only really covers a few different like spectrum areas, not everything. But I put in the chat here an XML file, and inside the SDR Sharp folder, there's a matching file. It's just called bandplan.xml, and that contains all the frequency allocations for the display. So if you take that file and you paste it in there and replace the one that's in there, it'll actually become a lot more detailed, and it'll give you all the satellite information, pretty much anything using the radio spectrum that you're tuned to. It'll show you what that's mainly used for. So it'll tell you all the different air band, military, and as well as down on HF, it's extremely detailed. So it's all you do is just pop that file in there and replace the one that's in there. And I really like it because tuning around, you're like, oh, what's this? And instead of trying to Google that frequency, which never works, it'll tell you right on there. So that's a cool little resource that I always use when I set up a new install of SDR
What's
Sharp.
it called?
It's not a plugin. It's just a modified band
replacement file. You just replace the file.
Yeah, you just pop that in there and replace the one that's already in there, and it makes the little band plan markers a lot more detailed.
I'm gonna do that. That's easy.
Whenever you, if your SDR Sharp is on the desktop, you just want to go into the main folder where the exe file is located, and then just in there should already be a bandplan.xml, and then just replace it because it's got everything, man, everything. I mean, even when you go down to VLF and ELF and stuff like that, it still has information for what each little section of band is for.
So it kind of takes that little PDF, that big PDF I was showing earlier, and puts that onto the SDR Sharp's waterfall, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
That's nice. That's nice.
Very helpful.
Oh, I'm done. Anybody else have anything else?
I think of anything.
Oh, Rick, you sound fantastic tonight. Whatever you did to your microphone worked because you sound great.
Yeah, well, I found this other microphone. So that's what, and I'm also using, let me see if I've got one of those handy. What did I do with that other one? It's they tend to get away. Oh, here it is. See that?
Yeah.
Yeah, these are all these little USB sound cards, and I've got a couple of those around here. So I plugged one of those in, and it powers this microphone. The microphone requires power, and then I hook the speakers into it. So that's why I wasn't doing so good coming on tonight, because the setup got all jumbled, but I got it all set up. So I'm glad it sounds good.
Yeah, you sound fantastic. I can understand you perfectly.
The microphone on the camera just didn't cut it. So I'm glad this works better.
Yeah, I guess you can't use the big boom mic there.
Yeah. Well, this is this is my Heil microphone for the TS590, and I could go out and buy a little mixer thing, which would allow me to convert that over to USB, but it'd be $30-$40. And I had this microphone here. I thought, well, this sounded good years ago when I used it. So I thought, if I could plug it into one of these USB sound dongles, which I did, and that's how I got it working.
You sound fine. I'm just wondering.
It should sound a lot better than before.
Yeah, and I'll tell you guys, if you're having problems with sound cards or connecting things, that cable program that we've told you about on several different nets now is great for connecting an online thing to a program in the computer. But also these dongles he's talking about, this is another kind right here. This one has the all-in-one plug. So I could plug these headphones into it, and it has the microphone and everything built in. So if you're going to buy one of these, make sure you buy the right one. There's one that has this, that has all three of the different, your headphones plug in, and it has the mic and the stereo headphones all in the one plug. There's also another one, and I have it right here, and I can't find it to hold it up and show you. But I have another one right here somewhere that is literally the same exact thing, except on the end, there's a little box and there's two plugs on the end, a green one and a red one. So when you buy these, they're all about $10, give or take $3. Go ahead and spend $10. There's there you go.
Yeah, this is another one I've got that I rounded up here not long ago. So it turns out I got a number of these things hanging around. Yeah. So they work good.
They work really good. You can connect a lot of different things up. Like if you have a source from a scanner or a source from somewhere else, you can connect that to its own sound card into your computer and use that as its own audio source. I literally I've been doing this with different ones, but I take the sound in and out of a radio, and put it right into one of these sound cards, and you can set your radio on Vox, and you can use FT8 with a $10 sound card.
Yeah.
And it works wonderfully. No problems at all with it.
And remember, everything I'm doing here is under Linux, so it works fine.
And these little dongles, another thing that's really cool about these is the same one works in an Apple, it works in a Unix, Linux, and it works in a Windows.
Yeah.
And it says it works in an Android.
They do, actually.
It works on Windows when it's not updating.
Yeah, as long as it's not updating. You got to do 3 down dates and an update. And then it'll work. All right. Anything else, guys? Last call. All right. I'm going to end the meeting and the recording and everything at one time tonight, guys. I'm really bushed. I do appreciate everyone's time, and I appreciate the 30-something different people that came through and the 14 that are still with us. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Help us get the word out about the TechNet. If I can ask any favor of you this week, get the word out about the TechNet. Let somebody
Otherwise,
know.
we'll talk to you on 444.775.
Yeah, there you go. I've got it on. And I'll be listening. I'll have it on. I'll be working out here a lot this weekend. I also keep my TYT portable on that channel as well, and it works in the house. So I'm monitoring it. I'm trying to monitor it all the time.
Yeah.
And I called on frequency listening about 10 times this last week on the 685, and I don't think I got an answer at all, not once. I called on frequency listening about 20 times on the 775, never got an answer except from Joseph a couple times. So a very disappointing week on getting people to talk to me on the repeater, but it is what it is. I don't know. Maybe I'm just not an interesting guy to talk to. I don't know.
No, you're just not putting out enough power.
Maybe that's
some people just can't take a hint, can they?
No. I'll just keep calling. I can't be too bad. People show up to this stupid
We
thing,
keep coming back here.
Yeah. So it's got to be something going on. All right. Anyway, guys. All right. I'm going to go ahead and hit this red button that says end. You guys have a great night.
That's all.
That's
folks.
all, folks. Yeah, this is the Southwest Florida TechNet signing off from Fort Myers, Florida. And you can catch all of our previous broadcasts at www.swfltech.net. That's www.swfl, like Southwest Florida, and then tech.net. And you can also find us on YouTube. Everybody have a great night out there. And special thanks to Joseph, my co-host. And you guys will see you next week for the Southwest Florida TechNet. Signing off, KO4 EFS.